To Youvah, and we are back with another topic related to sales. If somebody is hiring you as a social media marketer, as I told you, they are not hiring you for aesthetics. They are not hiring you for pretty pictures that you could possibly post. The sole reason they are hiring you is because they want to earn profit. Now, profit is only going to happen when the sales is going to happen, right? Now, how do you make sure that digitally the sales are happening at the very right order? Because traditionally what happens is that you meet people in person, and you're able to convince the person, right? But digitally it's not the case. So what you should be doing, you should be opting for some psychology techniques that you can help, that it can help you enhance, do your sales better. Now these are the things that you might have heard of it multiple and multiple times, right? You might have even got in a trap of it as well, right? Not literally trap of it, but you have felt those experiences, possibly might not be knowing the name of those things, right? So let's look at how sales firstly happen in digital marketing, right? There are basic understanding, there are basic hygienes that you have to be very clear on before you move towards the sales of digital marketing, right? The first thing is having an understanding of your audience, right? You can only sell a person something once you're aware about what his or her needs and requirements are. Otherwise you won't be able to sell anything to them, right? So firstly you have to make sure that you are able to figure out who exactly is your target audience and what is the buyer persona of that particular target audience. We've already discussed what buyer persona is, how do you develop that buyer persona, what are the stages of that buyer persona, right? So you have to make sure it's a full detailed on that, right? Then what you have to make sure is that gather all the toolboxes that you have possibly to learn about those things now. So if your audience is of a particular age group, if the audience is of particular interest and experiences, then what you're going to use, you're going to use some tools to understand what is their preferences and behaviors could be, right? So what you will be needing is that whatever your observation is, you're going to back it by the data that you have. All right. Another thing is that you cannot do sales until and unless you are well established over there, right? So online, usually, let's say if you have a very less amount of followers, let's say sorry let's say you have a very less amount of followers, let's say 50, right? Nobody will be able to trust your business enough to hire, like, order something from you because of the small number that it has, right? So what you could do from your side is that try to have a very strong presence of it. Let's say your strong suit is not the amount of followers that you have. Then what it could be particularly your customers' experiences. So offer them something in return so that they can give you reviews or ratings, right? So that you can post it on your social media platforms, right? Or they can mention your account and you can re-mention. It could be a user generated content for you as well. Initiate collaborations with different influencers as well to bring you a very strong presence, right? So if you're planning on doing sales, you have to make sure that a strong presence needs to be there, not in terms of number just say, but let's say if you are having a website as well, make sure it's functioning properly. At least the basic hygienes of that website is very clear, right? And have all the possible platforms installed, or let's say possibly working on wherever your audiences are, right? So if there is like your audiences are everywhere, then go for the multi-channel platform strategy, right? But if you know that okay, your audience is only on LinkedIn, only on Instagram, then don't go for the single channel strategy that you have, right? Then comes content marketing. Now content marketing is basically you reminding them that your business exists, right? It's not like creating very informative kind of a post, or like it's mostly about just nudging you, like how you had the feature in Hike, right? That just nudging you that okay, your brand exists, you exist, right? So make sure that you, whenever you are sales is going on, or whenever your sales is about to start, that is the kind of content creation that you're also doing. Not just talking about sales in general, but you're also mentioning about other things that could potentially grab the interest. It could be movement marketing, it could be topical marketing that you're doing, it could be behavioral marketing, relatable marketing, circuit marketing, be whatever that is, right? So try not to sound too salesy as well, right? So go for the content marketing part, and then comes the email marketing. So another way to grab your audience attention and to grab your customers attention, apart from your social media platforms through Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, apart from that, is through emails, right? So if you have a solid base of your customers, if you segmented them on the email list, then possibly send them an email regarding the same, reminding of the sales is coming, or if not the sale, if the sale has already been going on, a offer for them, right? Specifically because they have if they are in their databases and they might have purchased from you, right? So a additional offer could be there so that they could feel as personalized to them. All right, then comes your SEO part of it. So you have to make sure that your websites, your search engine, everything, so you're working towards it, because that is also one of the key factors that is going to impact your sales as well. So you have to make sure that you're sorted from the SEO category side of it, right? Then comes the paid advertisement. So whenever you're running your ads, don't just run ads anywhere, right? You have to make sure that the ads that you're running is very well targeted. You should be knowing who your audiences are, and you should target them again. If it's not working out, like it didn't work out the first go, retarget them again. Go for the lookalike audiences that is there, right? So wherever that you are betting your amount on that, getting the paid advertisement, make sure that it's very well targeted so that you get a very good return on that, right? Another thing, that once your campaigns start running, monitor that, adjust those campaigns based on the performance and the metrics that you have. Now moving towards is a social proof. So social proof is what? Social proof is basically your customers' testimonials, your reviews, case studies, basically to build your trust, to encourage your customers, right? So how do you get those social proofs now for your business? Because okay, you want to do sales and everything, but how would you get those social proofs? But a very interesting concept, when I was buying a furniture, there was this shop that actually had a big banner, and they asked my dad and me to actually click a picture over there, put it on a WhatsApp, so that other people can, from a WhatsApp, can see that particular thing. So it's basically advertising that they wanted to do through us, and we got a discount of 2,000. So it was not a bad deal overall, right? So with social proof, let's say if somebody is not giving you social proof directly in general, what you can do is that put a bait on that, right? Or put some sort of offer from your side, so that they are able to actually help you out with that particular process of yours, right? So social proof is really, really important. Second, the one would be leveraging the technology. So all the leads that you get, all the customer interaction that you're having, the customer is getting converted or not, everything, there's technology to help you out with. Track it using CRM, right? Build an automated process, do the repetitive task again and again, and it's going to help you out in the long run. So here's an example of like a personalized sales that has been going on. So like personalize your toothbrush and everything. It's an example that I've taken. Now, if I have to talk about principles of sales, some tricks that you could possibly apply, those are the hygiene factor that you refer to. But let's look at some tricks now, that how would it actually work in real life, what you can do from your side to improve your sales of your clients, right? So first principle, this all works on reciprocity, right? So let's say if I get invited to your birthday and I bring you a gift, and I invite you back to my birthday, you will also bring me a gift. The sole reason being is that first I made you feel valued enough, so then you can also value me enough, right? Or it's because that you're returning just a favor that I gave to you, and you're just giving that back to me, right? It same happens in a business as well. You might have seen lots and lots of YouTuber. They first start their content, they deliver a good piece of content, and they start with their own businesses. Ankur Warikoo is the best example of it, right? Or if let's say they don't start with a service, they possibly launch a product, right? Now what happens is that with all the amount of value they have added into your life, when I say value, it need to be financial, it not need to be informative, it could be anything. Just possibly making a person laugh is also adding a value to someone's life, right? So whatever value they have added into your life, right, and they launch something with regarding the same or something totally different, you might feel responsible enough to support them into your journey, and you might buy their particular product as well, right? So that is when the reciprocity is working into the picture, right? So you as a business also have to think about it, that whenever you ask for a bigger amount from your customers, your clients, think that what you have given them, have you provided them enough value to ask something or not, right? That is one thing that you have to keep sure of. Second is FOMO. Create FOMO in the minds of person. I think with every sales strategy that you will be using, with every sales point that you will be using, there need to be a FOMO factor involved. The FOMO factor could basically be about, you losing out on a product because it's gonna be a 24 hours product might go out of stock, or let's say a limited quantity is there, a price is gonna increase, right? Something or the other. Or you can just give them a FOMO on how they're missing out on the benefits of it, right? So that is something that you can provide them with. There is a concept of MLM marketing that used to happen. So a lot of companies used to work on FOMO actually. So what used to happen in their seminars and everything, they used to say that, okay, this person earned this much money and the person was able to bring the mom and dad a car, right? That is what they used to state. And everybody has to use the same kind of stories, like something very emotional stories and everything, right? The audience sitting in the the room might get a FOMO of it, right? And they also would like to see themselves in that particular position, right? So that is basically creating a FOMO. Then comes creating a sense of urgencies in somebody's mind. So what do I mean by urgency in somebody's mind is that making them to act quicker than usual. Now, why do you want your customers to act a little quicker? Is because a lot of competitors are there in the market. If they lose out on your product, they are fine without your product, but you would not be, right? The sole reason being is that there are multiple alternatives to your product, but where would you find an alternative to your customers? You would not be able to find that, right? That is when the urgency part comes into picture, wherein what you try to do is that you try to create fake and urgency. So urgency could be, okay, this offer is only limited for 2 hours. Okay, I have uploaded a video on YouTube, but I'm going to delete it within 2 hours because it is too resourceful, right? Or let's say I'm just sharing these things to people who are just DMing me. So just write story and I'll DM you with this particular thing. So some sort of urgency factor needs to be added here so that the person can actually listen to you very seriously. You might have seen that a lot of people run those free workshops and everything. Very less amount of intakes it have, right? But you might have seen those people who charge a certain amount and they will have a very large amount of intake. The sole reason being is that. Alright, now let's move further into the point which is of anchoring. Now what do you mean by anchoring bias? Anchoring bias is basically your first thing that you saw or the first price that you have is actually going to influence your decision that would you be buying it or not. So let's say I went to a particular shop, right? And I got I'm really interested in getting a shoe, right? The particular shop owner said that, okay, it's costing 700, right? Now in my mind I have already related the price of that particular shoe to 700, right? But still I'll try to bargain on it and I'll say, okay, let's just give it like 500 or let's say 600. I won't go for 300 or something. But what if the actual amount was 300 or 400? What the shopkeeper did was they played a trick on me, that they actually gave me a larger amount because they know that I'm going to negotiate, right? So that is what anchoring bias is all about, okay? The fifth is paradox of choice. So you might have gotten to hotels or restaurants and they might be having a very large amount of menu, right? You might be stuck. Okay, what do I order? There is so many things, right? What do I get it? So that is what paradox of choice is, wherein you are left with so many options that you cannot make a choice, which actually delay your decision making, which actually lead to a customer going away from a company, right? They might not end up making the purchase because they are too confused, they cannot confirm on anything. So that is why if you see the plans also of Netflix, of YouTube, of Prime as well, they don't give you multiple options. They give you 3 or 5 options, max 5 options. From that option you decide what you want, right? That is what paradox of choice is going to help you with. So let's just talk about authority bias now. So we discussed the paradox of choice, that you have to try to limit your options, right? So that your customer doesn't get confused and move to the other alternatives or just not end up buying, right? But apart from that, there is one thing that you could do from your side, is that the authority bias that would come into picture. So whenever you brought this course, right now you're listening to me buying this particular course, there might be 100% sure there might be an authority bias that might have crossed your mind, right, before buying this particular course, because there are other options as well, right? But why didn't you opt for that options but this particular option? Either the authority bias could be related to, okay, it's in the same city as you possibly live in, or the authority bias could be it's backed by IIM, which is a brand which shares the credibility and trust. And also having a mentor possibly from an IIM would also might have impacted your decision into that as well, right? So that is what how authority bias actually works out. So usually when you are starting or like selling or something, or business or something, like, you know, courses or something, try to have authority bias of it. Either a brand should be backed and supporting you, or either the person who is teaching should be of a reputable stature or something, right? Or in the other cases as well, it goes the same way. Okay, now this is where basically we talked about anchoring as well. So in anchoring, I told you, right, that the first biasness is basically it's gonna help you make the decisions for the later one, and that is something that you resonate your price with, right? So here the bonuses is of 77,000, right? Overall it's divided by 77,000, okay, but guess the price of the course, it's 599, right? 5,999, okay? So that is the price of the course, very cheap, but the way it has been communicated, it's very different, right? Let's move ahead with it, which is a Zeigarnik effect. Some sales psychology principles that we're going to learn here. So Zeigarnik effect is something where you remember the uncompleted and uninterrupted task, interrupted task better than the completed ones. Now, how does it work? Is basically you initiate a sales process and it basically leaves it unfinished, right? Which makes the person, okay, see closer to it. Okay, like, why did it happen? Right? A best example if I have to give you regarding this thing is regarding movies. So let's say when you're watching a particular movie, or let's say when the movie is about to get released, what happened? Firstly, what happens here is that, okay, first the poster comes out. Before the poster comes out, the cast get announced, right? Then comes out the poster, then comes out the song, then comes out, another songs, then comes out the interviews and everything, then comes out the trailer, and then finally comes out the movie. The weight that the particular director has made the audiences do, right? That is what the Zeigarnik effect is, because you are now, like, after trailer usually happens, okay, you have to see it, it happens, right? So that is what happens, that if you leave a task interrupted and just incomplete, then you will try to finish or see closure to it, and in that process of doing so, you might make a purchase, right? Then comes the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. Now this phenomena is basically very strategized in nature. You might have seen that, okay, one day you saw an advertisement on television, the next day you're seeing that product everywhere. Like in my case, it happens related to Zudio. So one time I saw Zudio and a particular person talked of Zudio, right? Then few days later, I was saying that everybody was talking about Zudio. Zudio stores are opening nearby my areas a lot, right? Now this is what the Bader-Meinhof phenomena is, that first that you see, and then you start seeing it everywhere. Everybody is talking about it, right? And so everybody is talking about it, its store is opening nearby you, you will visit. And that is what I did. I visited and I made a shopping there, so that is how it works, right? Similarly for you guys as well, that Bader-Meinhof phenomena really works well. So what you have to make sure is that whenever you are running an ad, or whenever you are thinking of running an advertisement or something of this kind, make sure that the people nearby who is like watching those ads, or the interest areas of the people, the targeted segment that you particularly have, also is like you're opening the stores, or you're doing something so that the person can see it again and again. It could also be like getting a shelf space in a retail shop. That could also be one of the Bader-Meinhof phenomena that you could possibly go for. Okay, then comes is a loss of aversion. So loss of aversion means fear of losing, right? Now fear of losing on something is always greater than losing something, right? Even if though it's of equal amount. If I say that, okay, you have gained 500 rupees and you have lost 500 rupees, the lost 500 will hit you very harder as compared to you have gained 500 rupees, right? So this is the trick that you have to play on, is that you have to make sure that your customer is very aware about it. right? So instead of saying gain exclusive benefits, you can just say that don't miss out on exclusive benefits, right? That is something that you could possibly go for. Then comes the storytelling part of it. So storytelling part of it actually works in a way that there are different psychological principles stays there, that emotion sells better as compared to your pricing, your logic. Use all the logic and everything that you want, but once you put emotion to the picture, it's gonna sell like a king, right? So that is something that you should work on. If you look at the advertisements also of jewelry ad and everything, they don't talk about prices, they don't talk about logic, they talk about investing or saving. All they play on is a simple emotions, right? And it works also for them. So that is what is the power of storytelling is. Okay, 10th is the cognitive dissonance. Now whenever somebody makes a purchase, right, they feel a little bit of discomfort naturally, because a particular amount has been deducted from your amount, money, right? Sorry, bank. A particular money has been deducted from your bank, right? So you will feel a little bit of discomfort. Now that is when this particular picture comes into place, cognitive dissonance. Now what is going to happen, you have to make sure to your customers that they don't feel the very same about your product, because once those feelings start kicking in, they might not be able to enjoy the product that you wanted them to enjoy, right, with the same level of intensity. So what do you have to do? You have to distract them. How would you distract them? Just have to make sure that you're sending them frequent text. For example, they made a purchase, possibly a thank you email from your side, and what is the things that you should be looking out for, right? That is something that you can mention, right? Any other details also could be mentioned over there. Okay, so that is what cognitive dissonance, and this is how it's going to help them. Then comes the mirror and match. So mirror and match language is basically talks about that you are using a very formal, or let's say possibly an informal language, like whatever your audience is using, you're using the very same language, or whatever the interest or the behavior your audience is carrying out, you're just representing them through that. A good example of it, it's a cat coaching which is called an eye contact. So there was a ZAT examination that was going on, and there was a trend also going on, right? Now how did they clubbed it together? They also know that okay, maximum of their audiences or maximum of the college people are a person who consumes Instagram, and they're aware about all this kind of trends that has been happening, right? And then the exam that happened, right? So with that particular exam that they happened, they also made sure that they are relating both of them, all the things together. So how did they work it out? Was the paper actually was comparatively difficult compared to the last year. So they asked a question that how was your ZAT? It was moi moi or oi hoi, right? So that was a trend that was happening, and they inculcate the same into the content marketing category, right? And the next one will be, okay, there is a error here with the numbers, but it's fine. So the next one would be the power of free. Okay, so some sales psychology principle was the power of free. Now if you say that okay, this is for free, a particular person will get motivated, but there is a very thin line between calling your brand cheap and calling your brand a discount, still maintaining that reputation of your brand and not being considered as cheap even then you're selling free things, right? So it should be in a very limited manner whenever you're selling a few things as well. Just have to make sure that it's not happening at a very frequent level, otherwise some people might think of your brand as cheap and not consider it as how would you like them to consider it as. All right, so another thing is framing effect. Now this influences your decision making a lot. The way I speak a sentence or the way a particular person will speak a sentence about a particular situation is going to impact how a person will think of this statement. Here's an example of it. There are two scenarios. There are college A and a college 1, right? So college A says that 90% of the students get placed, right? And college B states that 10% of the students doesn't get placed from our college, right? Both of them means the same thing, 90% getting placed and 10% not getting placed. Both of them means the same thing. Now why was there was a survey that was conducted, and usually the person wanted to go to the first college as compared to the college B. Now why did it happen? What was the case that it happened? The college part of it, the framing of the first sentence was in a manner that okay, 90% is getting placed. So the person who viewed that college saw them in the 90%. They saw themselves in those 90% getting placed, right? And when a particular person highlighted the negative part of it, that 10% doesn't get placed, right? So they imagine themselves in those 10% of it, right? So that is how this biasness works. Then fifth point is building relationships. So focus on long-term relationships rather than just doing sales. Involve lot amount of communications. If there is any grievances that is there, try to get it resolved as soon as possible. Genuinely care about your audience and customers so that there are long-term relationships can be built. See, there is one thing that you have to incur a lot of cost in order to get a customer, right? But retaining a customer will involve very less of a cost. It just involves a little bit efforts from your side. So if you're able to do that, your profit is not going anywhere, right? So building that relationship is very, very important. Then comes the cross-selling and the upselling part of it. So cross-selling is basically you are selling a particular customer a same thing which is related to the particular product that they search for. Let's say I search for a white shirt. There are different alternatives to that white shirt of different same pattern itself. I'm able to figure it out, similar products, right? So that is what cross-selling is. Okay, now what do I mean when I say upselling? So upselling basically talks about if I search for white shirt, right, what I'm getting is, let's say, a trouser or let's say a belt, right? That is the frequently brought together item that I'm getting, right? So here what is going to happen, the particular app is try to do upselling with me so that the quantity and the cart amount and value can get increased, right? So that is the difference between cross-selling and upselling, which is going to really help you out with the sales psychology principles. Then another thing is silence as a sales tool. So after you present your offer to somebody, it's usually advised that you stay silent after stating that particular offer. It's because you want that customer to think and respond. That discomfort that you're going to create will actually prompt them to share more information than usual, right? So if you are able to get more information than usual, you're able to understand that, okay, what is the scene behind the decision making that goes into picture. All right, then comes the personalization part of it. So personalization is, you might have seen those skincare brands like Minimalist and all those people. What they're trying to do is that they are categorizing. They ask you to take a MCQ test which basically talks about okay, how, like, what is the health of your skin and everything. They just fill in all those details up and they're gonna personally recommend you a particular product over there, right? And that product is something that you might consider buying as well, right? Now what is going to help, it's going to help them with increasing their revenues. They can suggest you any product they want. Similarly, getting a toothbrush just personalizing by your name also is one of the personalization trick that they are using, because as human beings we are obsessed with ourselves in general, and whenever we see our names or anything that is personalized to us, we are more inclined towards that as compared to the other things. Alright, then comes the follow-up. So whenever you convert a client, or whenever, let's say, there is a customer that you are catering to, try to have follow-ups, try to have multiple touch points with those customers, because if you want them to retain in long run, you have to make sure that they have no complaints from your side, right? So let's say if I take examples of Youvah here, right? If a student's call for a particular query and it doesn't get addressed properly, then it will leave them with a grievance, and possibly the word of mouth would not happen, right? Or possibly they might not opt for the other courses as well, right? Or let's say if one course happened but there is no feedback that is taken from them, right? It might also leave them with discomfort that nobody is there to listen to them on that, right? So that is also a follow-up thing that is happening here. All right, the 20 point is basically using social media listening. Now what do I mean when I say using social media as a listening tool? There are a lot of people who is going to mention your brand, who's going to talk about your brand, right? It's very important that you take them into consideration as well and respond to the same, right? So if you do that, a bond automatically gets built of collaboration, right? So listen to your listenings really well. It could be either positive, it could either be negative. So if it's negative, try to work on it. If it's positive, it's good for you, just move ahead with that. But if it's negative, try to work on it and address that query as soon as possible. 21 is gamification. So you might have seen those things, you see an advertisement, you click on that, you see a flying wheel, right? And then you just click on that particular wheel, it circles and you get a 50% off, or possibly a buy one get one offer. It usually is like buy one get one offer, nobody gets 50% off, right? So what is this? Is gamification. They are telling you that okay, you're involved in that particular process, but it's usually them who is involved in that particular process, right? The last one being is the live chat support option. So if you have a customer that you're catering to who might face grievances later on related to your product or related to your service, then you have to make sure you're having a chat support department in this particular nature itself, so that their queries can be addressed very properly. All right. So this is it for the sales in digital marketing. This is the sales psychology tricks that I taught you, and I'm going to see you in the next class. Thank you.